There's a sentence in a big book that explains it all. It's not good. My the 12-step experience I talk about is in AA. And so I went to my first meeting in April 1988. And at that time, I remained abstinent from alcohol until September 2001, a little over 13 years. August of 2004, I was on a path to get my life straightened out again. So I started going to meetings. Over the past 21 years, I'm not just sober, I'm a sober, spiritual, practicing person who has recovered what it says in the preface of the big book. I have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. As a result of going through those steps thoroughly and as honest as I could, this time, not hiding anything, not holding anything back, I have had a profound personality change sufficient to bring about recovery, which is described in Appendix B of the Big Book. In a doctor's opinion, and I'll paraphrase it, they talk about a psychic change. Excuse me. And that is ideas, concepts, and motives that were the driving force of alcoholics. Those ideas, concepts, and motives are cast aside, and new ideas, concepts, and motives are adopted. So, what changed this time around? When I came back in 2004, I was told the reason I picked up and got drunk again was because I stopped going to meetings. And it was true. However, discernment told me something else. At that time, and from that point, August 24, 2004, I looked at recovery in a different way, and things started to make sense. I noticed there was a lot I wasn't paying attention to. I was focused on going to meetings. In the preface where it says we are over 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, and that's the purpose of this book, to tell you how we did it. And of course, we're going to talk about God. There are people in my area, one in particular, I don't know how it is with you where you're at. You mention God, and he's like, I don't want to hear that around here. It's religion. Unfortunately, this benign dictator, he's a person that influences the group, tells them what to do, what not to do. This benign dictator has no clue of the origins of AA. I wanted to have this book ready. Oh, there it is. So this book Good Morning, Quiet Time, Morning Watch, Meditation, and Early AA is written by Dick B., an early AA member. And I've made videos about what's said in here and attached it, tied it to statements in the big book about the importance of meditation. Early AA would spend about an hour every morning in meditation, and this is what they did, which is described in this book by one of the first 100 men and women, Dick B. They would take a verse out of the Bible and discuss it. If you don't have this book or never read this book, I suggest you get it. Okay? So they would take a verse out of the Bible. That was like a morning meeting for them. A meeting. And then they would discuss the Bible verse. And then they would sit there in silence and think about what they discussed. Were you ever at a meeting? Someone would say something, and then the room got quiet. It reminds me of what the early AA members did. They did it because they read a Bible verse and then they sat there and thought about it. You're at an AA meeting and somebody says something and the room gets quiet and people think about what was said. It had meaning and depth. But there's always somebody that, I can't stand the silence. There's a guy around here with 35 years that one time said, my sponsor told me when a room gets quiet like that, that's God saying it's your time to speak. When I hear somebody say, I can't stand the silence, my first thought is, you don't meditate then. And the sentence I'm going to read to you from the big book explains this all. It puts it into perspective. Now I understand why people are so flippant. You could look that up. So I came back and decided to put my nose to the grindstone. And it didn't take me long to understand and admit where I failed. In the fourth step of the big book. Now, if you're in recovery, I want to ask you, did you do this? In the fourth step, it asks us to make 3 lists. 1, a resentment list. Mine was long. Who are you resentful at? Why are you resentful at them? And how did it affect your life? Did you do it? Were you honest? Or did you hold something back? Who am I resentful at? Why am I resentful? And how did it affect my life? The next list is the fear list. What are you afraid of? And the first thing I put on that list was I'm afraid to come to you, that my sponsor at the time, who's since passed away. Did you do that fear list? And the third one, the third list, what we're asked to put down on paper is sex conduct. Did you do that? Were you thorough and honest about it? So in the step 5 in the big book, it talks about when we skimp, hold things back on these steps, or these 3 lists. In the 5th step in the big book, it tells us when we skimp on this step, we're not honest with the person we take it to, we hold things back, it says we're going to get drunk. Step 6 and 7, I was never able to make any progress with the information in the big book and the 12 step and 12 tradition book. However, and if you've been watching this channel, you heard me say I embarked on a quest to read, gain knowledge, from spiritual teachings and spiritual philosophies, and this helped me tremendously with step 6 and 7. You see, when we start this journey of awakening, it's not about addition, it's about subtraction. And I wanted to subtract these character defects, these shortcomings, and these flaws. And the information in those 2 books wasn't helping me. So I sought help elsewhere, and it worked. I've been describing it in videos. And steps 8 and 9 are about amends, making amends. Made a list of all persons, all people we had harmed. Did you make a list of all people you had harmed? Were you willing, as it says, to make amends to them all wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others? And it explains what that exemption means. But did you make that list? Were you willing to make amends to them all? Or did you leave people off the list when you took it to your sponsor, counselor, priest, rabbi, or minister? You know. When I read this sentence from the big book, this will all make sense. Why people, after a period of time, aren't serious about the spiritual program or the steps. What type of people come to a 12-step meeting? And again, I'm not picking on AA, but that's my experience. What type of people come to AA meetings? So we'll put them in 2 groups, men and women. Most men come because they attend meetings because something happened in their mind and they feel guilty and ashamed about their escapades. Years and decades of escapades, okay? When I read this sentence out of the big book, you'll understand what I mean by escapades. So men come and they feel guilt, shame, and remorse about their escapades, their past behavior. Some men are court ordered. Some men are threatened with divorce, but most of them suddenly realize and feel guilt, shame, and remorse for their past behavior. And women, young girls, and I say young girls that 20s, in their 20s, come to a meeting. They attend a meeting. And I feel bad for their experiences after they attend meetings. So they come to a meeting, they attend a meeting, and they start sharing these experiences they had, and they're horrible. A lot of them were taken advantage of and abused as little girls, teens. They're sharing these stories. They are demoralized because then when they got into active alcoholism or added drugs into the mix, that being taken advantage of continued into adulthood. And they're pouring their heart out to these people in a room. When I read this sentence from the big book, you'll understand what I'm talking about. I'll read it now. This is the setting. So the setting is a man attends his meeting, his first meeting, or several meetings, and this is his view or description of his experience. Okay? So this is on page 160. Many an alcoholic who entered there came away with an answer. They went to these meetings at these homes. And here's the sentence. This is the sentence that troubles me. Actually, I don't know how this sentence got into this book. How did it get past the editors? And when I read it and discuss what I have to say, you'll understand. Here's the sentence. He succumbed to that gay crowd inside who laughed at their own misfortunes and understood his. So he succumbed, gave into the gay crowd inside, and gay at that time meant untroubled, carefree, and unburdened. So he was drawn to, surrendered, succumbed to that gay crowd inside, those people who were unburdened, carefree, and untroubled by what? Their misfortunes. Let me read it again. He succumbed to that gay crowd inside who laughed at their own misfortunes and understood his. and misfortunes in the 1930s. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you know that the meaning of words are important to me, and that the definition of words have changed over the years for various reasons. Government involvement, religious reasons, social movements. So let me read the sentence one more time. He succumbed, gave in to, surrendered to that gay crowd inside. They were unburdened, gay, unburdened, carefree, untroubled. He succumbed to that gay crowd inside who laughed at their own misfortunes and understood his. And misfortunes in the 30s when this book was written meant a really serious matter. Bad, wrong, mischief. So these people, this sentence said, when it came to really serious matters that happened when they were drinking, bad things that happened when they were drinking, wrong behavior, bad behavior, they were unburdened by what they did. They were carefree about it, and they were untroubled. I think over 3 decades, I read this dozens of times, and it never meant anything to me. Here's why. Let's talk about the men that come that are full of guilt, shame, and remorse. They're at their first meeting or their first week of meetings. And they describe a situation, a bad situation, a wrong situation, a really serious matter. They're describing a really serious matter at a meeting. It was bad, it was wrong. And then someone says, we could help you with that. No, they don't. They laugh. They say, you think you're unique. You think you're unique? You've been to meetings. I'm not lying. Okay? You think you're unique. Okay? When you describe a really serious matter, bad, wrong event you've had, say, with your wife, you feel guilt, shame, and remorse. Well, you're not unique. You're in the right place. And almost always, somebody with a lot of time will say, when that happened, you should have said this to your wife, something sarcastic, and the room burst out in laughter. Because they're unburdened, carefree, and untroubled by their past serious matters with bad behavior and wrong behavior. It's funny. It's a joke. You see? Just keep coming back. It works if you work it. And the women who are pouring their hearts out. Taken advantage of, abused as little girls, teens. this is no lie, because they're in all groups. So these women are describing these things that happen to them. You have predators licking their chops. Sorry for that expression. What do you mean, Johan? I'll tell you what I mean. It's a joke. There's 12 steps in AA. There's 12 steps in the book. It's a joke when it's brought up the 13th step, you know? Have you heard of it? Let me ask you this. When someone mentions the 13th step, mostly guys, but it's gals with some time taking advantage of newcomer guys. I've had it happen to me. When they talk about the 13th step, guys taking advantage of newcomer girls who are vulnerable, everybody laughs. It's a joke. Ha ha ha. The 13th step. Ho ho ho. It's a joke, all right. Because these people are unburdened, carefree, and untroubled by their past behaviors. It's in that book. They're untroubled by very serious matters. They're unburdened by bad and wrong things that they did. And this is why I've concluded that people don't take these steps, this program, seriously. People are coming in to these meetings and they're sick, spiritually sick. They've been taken advantage of. They've had people manipulate them. Have you ever heard this at a meeting? We don't have relationships. We take people hostage. Ha ha ha! And the whole room burst out in laughter. And these people that come in, like myself, spiritually sick, full of guilt, shame, and remorse, or the women who are demoralized what happened to them by a family member, a friend, or a neighbor as little girls, okay? And instead of putting the focus on the steps, what it was like, what happened, and what we're like now, those of us who have gone through these horrible things, dare I say that these people who, a lot of them are still spiritually sick, say, we'll love you until you learn to love yourself. Or, you don't have to like us, but you have to love us.